There was a time in my life when I constantly would make jokes to our pastor, who also happens to be my dad, about preaching. And I was always just like doing it in the sense of like, I'm just totally joking. Like, he's my dad. I can joke around with him about stuff like that. And one time I made the joke like, hey, you're going out of town. Who's going to preach for you? And immediately God spoke to me. Was it a huge audible voice? No, but it was definitely the still small voice inside of me that said, you're not joking. Stop saying things as if you're joking. You are trying to plant seeds that you want to preach. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I knew inside of me that I did want to preach, but I also knew inside of me that I was trying to pound down a door that was closed that God had not opened yet. And I constantly remember that area of my life because I feel like so often what happens is God puts something in our hands and he places it in our hands and he says, here, I want you to steward that. And we love that opportunity of the stewardship that we have in our hands. But sometimes what we find happening is we have the amazing thing placed in our hands, but we're constantly looking at something else we could be doing. Or those thoughts creep into our mind like, what if one day I get to do this? Or what if one day I could do this? Or maybe if I plant these seeds here and there, God will make it come to pass faster. Or God's gonna, like, if I plant the seeds to the person who I think God could use to open the door, if I plant those seeds to that person, maybe God's gonna open the door faster. But the only thing that happens when we do that is the stewardship of what's happening in our hands fails. It lacks. It doesn't have the full potential of what it could have because our eyes are constantly looking outward. Our thoughts are constantly going elsewhere, and we're not giving full attention to what God has placed in our hands. And it's so important that if we trust that God is the all-powerful God, and we trust the scripture in Revelation 3, it says, he who is holy, he who is true, he who has the key of David, who opens and no one shuts, and shuts and no one opens. If we can trust and place our full confidence in God that he is the only one who can open it and close doors, it doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter what we say. It doesn't matter those seeds that are planted, because God's going to use people to open and close those doors. So instead of us constantly looking at how we can make a door open faster than maybe we would have wanted, or even maybe your situation is you're trying to close this door, right? Whatever it may be, we have to place our confidence in God that he knows what's going on inside of our heart. God knows what's going on inside of our minds. He knows the motivation and the intentions of our heart. He knows what we're good at. He knows what we're bad at. He knows us better than we know ourselves. And he is the only one that can open those doors. So it's time for us to place our full confidence in him that says, God, I thank you for the stewardship that you've placed in my hands. Help my eyes not to wander. Help my thoughts not to wander on what I could be doing or what else I may be good at. But God, allow me to really steward everything that you have placed in my hands, because we know that we serve a God who delights in stewardship. God knows if we have something that's placed in our hands and we're constantly knocking on a door for us to be open, he knows that we're not stewarding what he has placed in our hands. And maybe he will open the door, but time again, we're showed in the Bible that that's not a place that he's going to give us that next level if we can't even stewardship what he has currently placed in our hands. So we need to come to this place where we really trust God and we say, Lord, you know the motivations and the intentions of my heart. Lord, you know where I'm supposed to be in 10 years. God, you know where I'm supposed to be tomorrow. So I'm going to focus all of my attention and all of my life, and I'm going to put my heart into this area that you have placed in my hands now, knowing, God, that you're going to hold my future and you're going to open those doors. He loves you. He's thought of you. He knows all the amazing things that he created you to be and do. So trust in his timing. Don't keep putting your thoughts elsewhere, but put your thoughts on exactly what God has placed in your hands. And I promise you, he's going to open that door when the timing is right. And it's going to be the most perfect timing for you in that place that he's called you to, because it's going to be God ordained and it's not going to be something that you have made happen by yourself. So have that confidence in God and focus on the stewardship that God has placed in your hands, because we're so blessed that God has chosen us to have what we have in our hands.